वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः नमामि गौडपादञ्च शङ्करं श्रीसुरेश्वरं स्वामिनं सच्चिदानन्दमिन्द्रं तं ज्ञानरूपिणे. I have a little throat problem, just a minute. Okay, we were discussing a reply to Bhamatikara's comment. In that reply, Swamiji quoted one sentence from Bhashya, which said like this: Bijankuradivat avidyakruta samsaraha atmani kriyakaraka phaladhyaropalakshanaha anadiranantaha anarthaha. So, that kriyakaraka phala adhyaropana. Adhyaropana is imposition of karta, karma, karana, bhokta, bhogya, bhoga, jnata, gneyam, jnanam. That means a knower, known, and a knowing, and a doer, that is an agent of action. Doer, doing, and the action, object. Then the enjoyer, enjoyed, and the enjoying relationship. So these things are Atmani Adhyastam. Atmani Adhyastam means they are error, they are a misunderstanding. This Triputi is a misunderstanding upon the Atman. And this samsara, it is a vyavahara, samsarika vyavahara, is avidyakrita, no doubt. Avidyakrita means it is within Adhyasa. Avidya is Adhyasa. Avidyakrita samsaraha. Adhyasta samsara is like Bijankuradivat, he told one explanation. How this Bijankuradivat, we are discussing this point here. Bija and Ankura, seed and sprout. Bhamatikara told avidya and its samskara are like seed and sprout. The Adhyasa leaves samskara. Samskara reproduces Adhyasa, and Adhyasa leaves samskara. There is a series of Adhyasa and samskara like Bija and Ankura, like a seed and a sprout. Regarding this, Siddhanti says this explanation is not true from Paramarthik standpoint, but this explanation is okay from the empirical standpoint. This is what we were discussing. Okay, in the last class, that Adhyasa and its samskara looks okay from the empirical, from the vyavaharik standpoint. How? We discussed the waking state as a whole. First in the earlier class, not before, even in earlier class I told, there can be samskara of an object within the waking state, but state as a whole cannot leave a samskara. State as a whole implies the entire mind along with time, place, subject, object, entire thing. So this entire set cannot leave a samskara. If there is an experience, a small experience within the mind, when mind forms the basis of various experiences forming in a sequence, coming in a sequence, then one small experience of a given object or a small experience comes to an end, mind continues, that mind can retain the samskara of previous experience and the next experience comes, this experience goes away and third comes, that goes away, fourth comes. If there is a sequence of experiences within the mind, then samskara is possible. Because the experience leaves a samskara in the mind. But when you talk of the entire state, then mind is taken as a whole, not as a divisive mind. Mind is not divided into a previous state and a later state. The mind as a whole, along with its previous and later, that is along with the time, along with the space, along with the objects, along with the subject-object duality, the entire state is taken. Okay. In the entire state, the mind is a total mind. Therefore, for a total mind, no samskara, no impression is possible. This is what we were discussing. This can be told in another way. The same thing I put it in another way. If mind has got parts, then one part after another part it comes. Or in other words, if mind has got two parts of a conscious mind and unconscious mind, whatever you experience, these are the terms of modern psychology I am using. But in our days, vyakta, avyakta, we call them simply vyakta, avyakta, manifest, unmanifest. But the same manifest and unmanifest, they use, modern psychology uses conscious and unconscious. The experiences in a conscious mind, when they come to an end, the impression of the conscious mind is gathered, retained in the unconscious mind. And at its due time, the impressions in the unconscious mind reproduce in the conscious mind. So conscious, unconscious, two levels are there. Each experience in the conscious mind, when it comes to an end, leaves an impression. The impression gathered and retained in the unconscious mind. That unconscious again reproduces it. So you have two levels, conscious and unconscious. Similar explanation was given by tradition by vyakta, avyakta. Vyakta is manifest mind, avyakta is unmanifest. Okay. So these vyakta, avyakta is okay, is possible in case of a limited experience. But waking state as a whole cannot have avyakta. Because waking state as a whole includes the entire mind. Now it doesn't have again a separate unconscious mind. Because the entire mind, when we say conscious, unconscious, everything is included in one mind. Now that total mind or a total waking state doesn't have another unconscious again. It may appear, therefore, waking as a state whole disappears in deep sleep, and again in waking, again it appears. This is an empirical standpoint. From the empirical standpoint, it looks that there was a waking for some time, and waking is followed by deep sleep. Deep sleep is followed by waking state. See, waking and deep sleep are followed by one after the other. This is an empirical standpoint, but it is not true. That's why Shankaracharya says, this bija ankura, seed and the sprout, this relation of seed and sprout, applying this relation of seed and sprout to the waking and deep sleep. Deep sleep is a seed, waking is a sprout. Seed and sprout require a sequence in time. Okay. After deep sleep, waking comes. After waking, deep sleep comes. This is not really true. Because deep sleep is timeless, and waking as a state, if you take the waking as a state as a whole, also doesn't have time. A time is experienced with the objects within the waking state. Time is experienced with reference to the passing of the events within the waking state. The events pass. Events come in a sequence within the waking state. But state as a whole, when you take it, past, present, future put together. Waking as a whole state, if you take past, present, future, all the three is taken in one stroke, in one attempt, in one effort. Past, present and future seen as a one as wakeful consciousness, which includes past, present and future. Therefore, waking as a state, whole waking as a state, if you take it, no past and present, no sequence. Therefore, waking and deep sleep, you can't put them in a sequence. Deep sleep is timeless. Waking as a whole, if you take it, that is also timeless. Therefore, waking and deep sleep do not follow one after the other. Do not follow one another. This is a reality. That's why Adhyasa doesn't have a samskara, doesn't have an unmanifest state. Because when you take the whole, it is a directly false appearance. No subconscious mind, unconscious mind, no avyakta and vyakta. But it appears like that from the waking standpoint. Therefore, from the empirical standpoint, it is okay. Okay means we accept it tentatively from the empirical standpoint, because from the empirical standpoint, that's how it looks. Because when you say after waking sleep comes, after sleep waking comes, then this is what an impression you get, that waking and sleep follow one after the other. But it is wrong. Really, if you look at it, it is wrong. Because there is no sequence after sleep and waking. But you may ask, Swamiji, there is sequence. No, it is wrong. You watch. Sequence requires time. There is no time temporal relationship between deep sleep and waking. Because deep sleep is a timeless existence. Waking as a whole, if you take, there again is no time. Therefore, waking and deep sleep, they are not related in sequence. Okay. No sequence. Therefore, calling them as a seed and sprout, coming one after the other, is wrong if you go from the highest experience of Sakshi. From the standpoint of Sakshi, it goes wrong. Oh, I started speaking. Is it right today? Wednesday, Tuesday. Okay, Sugama day, correct. From the empirical standpoint means what? You are in waking state and looking at deep sleep. Two ways of looking. One is swallowing the waking state and looking from the deep sleep standpoint. From the standpoint of deep sleep, where the entire waking state is already included, not that it is swallowed, it is already included. Deep sleep already includes the waking state, because deep sleep is infinite existence. Nothing is outside the infinite existence. Nothing is outside the infinite consciousness. Infinite consciousness and infinite existence, both are same. So there is nothing outside it. Therefore, there is no such thing called waking apart from deep sleep. Deep sleep includes everything. Deep sleep is a natural self-existing entity. It is self-existence. Therefore, there is no sequence. There are no two things. But if you look from the waking, look to the deep sleep looks as if it is past and waking is in the present. It is an appearance, it is a wrong thinking from the waking standpoint. It is a wrong perception from the waking standpoint. But from the direct anubhava, it is wrong. But it appears so. From the waking standpoint, waking mind thinks that deep sleep is a past and waking is a present. Or it may think that waking is the present and deep sleep is a future. So this, though it is a wrong, we impose it. So this Shastra does the prakriya. Here one difference is there. Again, one more point I'll tell you. It is a little complex. That's why I'm shifting from three different standpoints. One is a standpoint of an individual within the waking state. Second is taking as a state. Third is the deep sleep standpoint. First is taking a standpoint of an individual within the waking state. This is what common man looks at deep sleep, and just as the waking individual is living in the waking time, waking individual is living in who identifies with a given body and sees that the world is around him, and that waking individual who is within the waking state passes through time within the waking state. He experiences a series of time, series of experiences, therefore he experiences it. So from that standpoint, he mixes up and he thinks that waking state as a whole goes into deep sleep and comes out, and deep sleep is past, waking is present. He thinks like that. This is a common man's misunderstanding. Okay, common man lives as a person within the waking state, therefore he lives in the time series. Now this time series is not applicable if you look at the waking state as a whole. Waking state as a whole, you can say that there is a waking state, there is a deep sleep. There are two different states, that's all. Okay, if you take the state as a whole, you can see there is a waking state as a whole and a deep sleep. But the relation between them can't be put in a sequence. The sequence is present, sequence is experienced by a waking individual who is within the waking state. Within the waking state means who experiences the objects within the waking state, who follow the time sequence within the waking state. See the difference? So this standpoint of a waking individual who lives with waking state, unconsciously this common man tries to apply it to the waking state as a whole, merges into the deep sleep and comes out of it in a time sequence, he thinks. He is applying the time condition to the waking state and deep sleep, which is wrong. Common man's misunderstanding. Shruti helps him to understand that the time occurs within the waking state. So when you take state as a whole, time doesn't exist. Time is included within the waking state. If you look at the waking state as a whole, there is no time. There is a direct waking state and there is a deep sleep, that's all. There is no time sequence between waking state and deep sleep. If you look at the states directly, this is a little higher step. Okay, if you look at the state directly from the Sakshi standpoint, there is a direct waking state, there is a direct deep sleep, but the connection between them can't be established. Up to this we have come. I have been talking this is the third day. Okay, the same, because this is a little deeper point and it has to be understood. Therefore I have to take some time and repeat it, because what I say in one day becomes clear in the next day, and what I spoke in the first and second day becomes clear on the third day, because it has to sink into our understanding. Because in initial explanation you get some idea, but your mind keeps thinking, even consciously, unconsciously it keeps on thinking. Second day when I repeat it, oh, that becomes clear. Third day becomes further clear. I hope it becomes clear today. So it is a 3 levels. One is an individual who lives within the waking state. That is a common man's thinking, and he thinks that waking and deep sleep The states also follow the same time, the time which he experiences within the waking state. The time which he experiences with reference to the events within the waking state, because there is a time sequence with reference to the events within the waking state, and this human mind unconsciously stretches it, unconsciously extends it to the waking state as a whole and deep sleep. To these two states also he is applying that sequence of time which doesn't exist, but the common man applies it, tries to apply, he makes a mistake here. Then the Shruti helps him to understand the time occurs within waking state, past, present, future. Then you remain an individual, identify with a given body, live within the waking state, experience the events of waking state. When you are experiencing the events of waking state in a sequence, you are an individual within the waking state. Don't extend that time experience to the waking state as a whole. Okay, I'm repeating, I know, but for some people, so that you will not misunderstand, I'm repeating it to make it clear. And second step is, take the waking state as a whole and deep sleep. When you take these two, there are two states, but there is no time relation between them, because deep sleep is timeless, and waking state as a whole, if you take, no time experienced. And therefore, this waking state as a whole and deep sleep cannot be put in a sequence. They are just there, two states, that's all. But no relation can be established. Okay, this is a second step. When Vedanta helps you to come to this second step, leaving that common man's step, a common man, how common man thought, as an individual within the waking state. Okay. Now, from that common man who lives within the waking state, you come to little higher level with the help of Vedanta, where you look at the states directly from your Sakshi Anubhava, waking state as a whole, dream state as a whole, deep sleep state whole. Okay. These three states are directly experienced by Sakshi, means they are directly experienced by our Anubhava, not in a sequence in time. When you come up to this level, then the next step I can tell you. Okay, I think these two standpoints should be very clear. At this time, Shruti comes and tells you, Sushupti and deep, see, Sushupti and waking state are directly experienced states. There is no connection between them. Yet, Shruti says, deep sleep is a bija, seed, waking state is its sprout. It is not your direct experience, because directly there is no relation between them. Yet, Shruti points out as a prakriya, as a method of teaching. It posits as a part of a method of teaching. It presents that deep sleep is a seed. Seed in the sense, deep sleep is a cause and waking state as a whole is an effect. Actually, if you look at it, there is no relation between cause and effect. Yet Shruti teaches it. Shruti's teaching is a prakriya, is a method of teaching only to communicate that the deep sleep and waking are not two. Deep sleep, waking state is already swallowed, already included in deep sleep. Therefore, deep sleep is one and non-dual. Waking is not a separate state. This is the implication. This is the goal. This is the tatparya. This is the intention of this prakriya. Prakriya is a method of teaching. The purport or tatparyam in Sanskrit. Tatparyam or purport is some idea to be conveyed, some understanding. So this prakriya helps the sadhaka to come to an understanding. To help you to come to an understanding, Shruti or Guru uses a prakriya, uses a method. Guru or or Shastra use a method of teaching. What is that method? It imposes deep sleep as a cause and waking state as an effect. So this relationship between cause and effect is artificially imposed by Shastra. It doesn't exist in your Anubhava. Why it imposes? Because the cause and effect relationship means they are not two. Cause itself appears in another form as an effect. Effect is not different from cause. It is only two ways of looking. The same thing you look at in one way, at one level you call it cause. Same thing you look at in another level, it is called effect. Effect and cause are not two things. Because before the effect was produced, effect was inseparable from cause. Effect was inseparable from cause. You looked at from the standpoint of the cause. You look at the effect from the standpoint of cause. Effect doesn't stand separate from the cause. Gold and ornament. You look at the ornament standing as a gold. You stand as a gold and look at the ornament. You don't see the ornament apart from you. Just as you cannot see your own face. You cannot feel your own height. Can you see your own height? You can't see. Because when you stand as yourself as a person, look at your face, you can't see your face, and you may see in a reflection in a mirror, but you can't see directly your height. You can't see your face because your face and you, they are not two. When you stand as yourself and look at your face doesn't appear apart from you because there is no face other than you. There is no ornament other than the gold apart from the gold. From the standpoint of the gold, ornament is not separate from the gold. It doesn't stand separate from the gold. So from the standpoint of the gold, ornament doesn't exist as an ornament. Ornament exists as a gold alone. Ornament exists as a gold, and ornament has not appeared at all because it appears as a gold alone. Similarly, so we have to shift to your standpoint from the waking to the deep sleep. Look at the deep sleep from the standpoint of deep sleep. Waking doesn't exist separate from you, apart from you. It is not outside. Therefore, in order to teach this oneness of cause and effect, it uses this prakriya. At first stage, it says deep sleep is the cause, waking is the effect. But it doesn't mean it really, literally. Okay? It is not virtually true, but it is a method of teaching. Shruti does a prakriya. Prakriya means a method of teaching. It does impose. It imposes the causality on deep sleep and effect on the waking state as a whole. Waking waking state as a whole is presented as an effect. Because as an effect you can never experience. Because waking state beginning nobody experiences. Because beginning requires time. But the time is part of waking state. Nobody can see waking state beginning. Yet Shruti imposes that waking state is a product. Therefore, it is a Shruti's imposition by way of teaching. Teaching is a method to communicate certain higher truth. The method conveys the truth and method melts away. Method by melting away, it conveys certain highest truth. What is that? Waking state is not different from deep sleep, they are one. Okay. Here, waking state as a whole merges into deep sleep and again comes back. When you look at from waking standpoint, it looks that waking state is merging, waking state is swallowed by deep sleep, and it stays there for some time and again reappears. Why do you think that it reappears? Because I am seeing the waking state. That means you are taking waking standpoint and looking at deep sleep. How does it look? This waking state doesn't exist there. Doesn't exist means it doesn't appear. But again it is coming back. Yes, it is coming back. That means in between it must have existed. You imagine that it must have existed. Nobody has experienced waking state during deep sleep. During deep sleep, nobody experiences the waking world, or waking subject, waking object, waking time, waking place, waking world. All these things you don't experience. Yet Shruti does it as a prakriya. Therefore, mind imagines that waking state has merged into deep sleep. I accept it. But why does it come again? If it comes, how? How does it come again? It comes means it must have existed in some form during the deep sleep. See, note this point. Waking state, when reappears after merging into deep sleep for a while during deep sleep, for a while it disappeared during deep sleep, again it reappears. Then mind thinks that it must have remained in some form. We don't know what form it is, but some form. That some form is called bija, seed or bija. But is seed or bija experienced? When you are in deep sleep, look at yourself from the deep sleep standpoint. Do you experience a seed there? Nobody. Nobody experiences seed there, because from the standpoint of the deep sleep, it is non-dual. There is nothing outside it, there is nothing apart from it. Whole entire world, along with time, space, stars, human being, world, mountain, everything. Mountain, rivers, forest, everything is included. Oceans, etc. in the deep sleep. Therefore, so here the waking state is presented as having merged into deep sleep. And it comes back. This is the standpoint. Mind thinks that it comes back. When it is coming back, then in deep sleep it must have remained in some form. Some invisible, some small invisible, compressed form. It is imagination alone, because nobody has. Do you experience a compressed world like in CD? Not CD, pen drive. Nowadays you get a pen drive small of these things, you get 1 TB. 1 TB, 100 GB, 1000 GB. 1000 GB can be stored in one small pen drive. It is just small like this, 1000 GB, 1 TB they call them. 1 TB of matter can be retained within it. Capsule. Similarly, the entire waking state is submerged. It is submerged into deep sleep, but again it appears. Again is a wrong standpoint. There is no again appearing. That means you are taking waking standpoint and looking at deep sleep. That's all. There is no again. Because again means again time. Before and later, that is a time. But the time doesn't exist there when you take the waking state as a whole and refer it to deep sleep. Therefore, Shruti or Veda, our Guru has to present us that deep sleep is the cause, waking state as a whole is an effect. Then cause means what? Then this waking state merges into deep sleep and again appears, again merges, again appears. That means it must have remained in some invisible compressed form. This compressed form might be because you are not experienced. If you experience, you show it directly. This is this. See, this is eraser, this is pen, this is book. No, we are not imagining. We are seeing directly. It's a fact. Nobody can deny it. But here, it must have remained in deep sleep. Why do you say must have? It is. Why don't you say? The waking state is merging into deep sleep and it remains there and comes back. Why don't you say directly? Has anybody seen? No. Therefore, it is a Shastriya Prakriya, Guru's method of teaching, where the waking state as a whole is comparable to effect, comparable to a plant, seed, sprout, comparable to sprout, and this sprout leaves a seed, leaves a samskara by merging itself, by ending itself. Therefore, deep sleep is called as a Karanavastha, as a Bija. Now Siddhanta is telling you may take waking state as a Bija, but that is okay from the empirical standpoint. But absolutely, if you look at it, there is no relationship between waking and deep sleep, because in deep sleep there is no waking apart from it. It is included. Okay. Therefore, from the empirical standpoint, this Bijankura Nyaya, the entire world merges and remains as a seed. The seed again sprouts at its own time in the form of the world. In fact, deep sleep and waking are not two. They don't exist side by side, nor one is produced from the other. Yet we present it as a prakriya to help you to understand there is only one Brahman, one Atman, and everything is included in it. Nothing is outside. So to help you to gain this understanding, it uses a prakriya. Okay, we'll proceed. So therefore, Bijankura Nyaya applicable to empirical standpoint, but not to the Atma standpoint. This is what he makes it clear. But this Bijankura Nyaya is not true in its absolute sense, in its real sense. So Shruti does Adhyaropa from the waking standpoint, but when you take directly the Turiya standpoint, there is no world apart from you, apart from your infinite consciousness. Okay. वृत्तेर्हि वृत्त्यन्तरोदये सति स्वीकरणे लया tat samskaropi kaschit shakya kalpana. We can understand that the samskara production, an adhyasa production is a samskara, produces a samskara, and that samskara again produces adhyasa. This is okay because this appears to be true, it is not true. If you watch a little deeply into it, and if you inquire deeply into it, and it is proven as wrong, because it won't stand your anubhava. So vrityantarodaya sati swakarane layat, when another state of mind arises, previous state of mind disappears. Avyakta. Tat samskaropi kaschit. Therefore, samskara is possible. But if you take the waking state as a whole, how can there be samskara? Because it is a samashti mind. The entire world is included in it. And that samashti mind doesn't have a samskara of the past. You can't include it. You can't call it as a past and future. Okay. Bijankuradivat avidyakrita samsaraha atmani kriyakaraka phaladhyaropana lakshano anadiranantaha anarthaha. This is what Shankara Bhashya says. Atayeva hi punarapi swavasare. Therefore, at its right time, again comes. All that comes. Okay. Vritterhi vrittyantaro svaya samskara. Okay. Atayeva hi punarapi swavasare swajatiya vrityantarodaya sambhavati. Again it reappearing in the waking, reappearing not in the waking state. The state which has merged into deep sleep reappears as the waking state, not within the waking state, as the waking state. Therefore, since I am seeing the waking state again, I imagine that it must have been there in some form in deep sleep. But your anubhava says there is nothing in deep sleep. Deep sleep is not an anubhava of you. Okay, note this point. Deep sleep is not a state of experiencing something. It is a state where there is nothing other than you exists. This is reality. But human mind thinks that there is an avyakta, there is karana and all that. Bija, all that is wrong. Shastra may do it as an imposition, but actually it is not true. Vastutastu na kopi hetu phalam va anadhyastam bhavati. Therefore, when the deep sleep, there is neither cause nor effect nor anything. When you spring from the deep sleep, when you spring out, you spring means you come out of the deep sleep as a sprout. From the standpoint of the sprout, it looks that it has merged into it and come back. But the reality is no merging, no coming back, because world is never separate from Sushupti Swarupa. It is already swallowed into it. There is no separate world. Therefore, vastutaha na kopi hetuhu phalam va adhyastam sambhavati. No cause and effect can remain without being purified, without entering the mandir of the temple. Okay. Vastutastu nakopi. There is no cause and effect which is not adhyastam. Means anything other than Brahman is adhyastam. That's all. Anything you imagine, you think of, that is adhyasa. It is not true. Brahman alone is the true. Everything else is adhyasa. In fact, the very thought of everything is due to adhyasa. Everything else, the very thought of something different is adhyasa. Therefore, yohi svikriyate hetutvena phalatvena va samskaraha. Those who take that samskara is the cause of adhyasa, he says, sopi adhyaso va syat anadhyasto va. That may be anadhyasto va. Yadi adhyasta, if it is adhyasta, then everything is included in kalpana only. There is nothing outside it. If it is adhyasta, it doesn't exist apart from Brahman. If it is not adhyasta, then it becomes real. Okay. Adhyasa becomes real. Adarinda yohi svikriyate hetutvena phalatvena va samskaraha sopi adhyasta eva na adhyasta eva syat na anadhyastah. Therefore, whatever you can think of, all that is adhyasta alone, nothing is outside it. Yadi adhyastah tada vidya kalpita eva syat na tad hetuhu. If adhyasta adare, ಈಗ ಮಿಕ್ಕದೆಲ್ಲ ಡ್ಯೂ ಟು ಅಧ್ಯಾಸವೇ ಹೊರತು ಅಧ್ಯಾಸಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾರಣ ಊಹಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಅಧ್ಯಾಸಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾರಣ ಅಂದರೆ ದೆರ್ ಇಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ. ಅಧ್ಯಾಸಕ್ಕೆ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಬಂದರೆ ದೆರ್ ಇಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ. ಈಗ ದೆರ್ ಇಸ್ ನೋ ಜಗತ್. ದೇರ್ ಫಾರ್ ನೋಬಡಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನ್. ಯದಿ ಅಧ್ಯಸ್ಥಃ ತದಾ ಅವಿದ್ಯಾ ಕಲ್ಪಿತ ಏವ ಸ್ಯಾತ್ ನ ತದ್ ಹೇತುಃ. तथा अनध्यस्तः तदा परमार्थः एव स्यात् न विद्यानिवर्त्यत्वम् अनिष्टमापद्यते. If it is adhyasta alone, then jnanam will remove it. Adhyasta means what? If you understand that it is only an anisike, it is only a thought, then the jnana comes and corrects it. You are free from all thoughts. You are free. You are the basis of the entire universe. That means at your level you don't have to quarrel. Everything is included in you. Therefore, if it is anadhyasta, it becomes real equal to Brahma. Then if you understand it is not creating any problem, then you say you can feed the person. यदि अध्यस्तः तदा अविद्या कल्पित एव स्यात् न तद् हेतुः अथ अनाद्यस्तः तदा परमार्थ एव स्यात् न विद्या निवर्त्यम्. If it is real, it won't go away by jnanam. If it is non-real, if it is non-dual, if it is anadhyasta, it becomes real. If it is adhyasta, included already. Okay. Therefore, na vidya nivartatvam. Therefore, he says, removal is not possible with knowledge alone. You need something more. Na chaivam shakya sankyam. I think these things we have discussed already. So today I have discussed from another angle again. Now up to this we came, and now from here we have to proceed today's portion. Na chaivam shankyam. We should not think like that. Why? Purvadhyasa samskara karyatva tad uttaradhyasasya uddata samskarajanya ಅಧ್ಯಾಸ ಸಂಸ್ಕಾರಜನ್ಯತ್ ಅಥೋ ನ ಕೋಪಿ ದೋಷಃ. ಇದು ನೋಡಿ, Adhyasa and its samskara, both are adhyasa. Avyakta and vyakta, both are adhyasa. You can't put they are really there. Okay. Samskarasya purva adhyasa karyatvat taduttaradyasasya adhyasika samskarajanyatvam, like this. Adhyasa is born from a previous samskara, and son summane kutirtana, his son Sahadeva won't keep quiet, he will quarrel. Therefore, adhyasta samskarascha ityubhavapi adhyastaveva. Adhyasa and samskara both are within adhyasa, therefore nothing is outside adhyasa. This is the basic point, ultimate point. Therefore, samskarasya ato nakopi dosha iti chetandre na tathapi purvottara kalayor adhyastaro iva swikarat tata purva kalantara kalpana yogat. Okay. The entire is within adhyasa alone, nothing is outside adhyasa. That's what is ultimate standpoint. Nahi vastavam janyatvam janakatvam va anubhavan adhyaso nama bhavati. By experiencing really the humiliation and end, there is no cause and effect relationship. Cause and effect is only imposed relationship. It doesn't exist really. Shastra does imposition so that you can avoid certain other things. By avoiding other things, it narrates this one, it explains this one. Okay. Yat punaravidya. Another argument is there. I think time is up. We'll discuss in the next class. Okay. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.